Start.
Wait for it. Wait for it, and we're live.
We're live.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
should have recorded that before I started opening my beer. Hello,
uh,
Internet, and welcome to Drink to the Past. As always, I am your host, Sean Michael Patrick Thompson. The only podcast where I tip my hat to you and remind you to share and subscribe our content, and also ring the bell to get notifications every Friday when we go live on YouTube. I am joined by my glorious co-host, Mr. Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris, performatively woke Audette. What?
Chris, who owes me $20 Audette.
Yeah, I definitely still owe you $20, and like a case of beer.
Yeah, I got my Thanksgiving turkey hat on. Yesterday was Thanksgiving, so I'm drinking a good old Thanksgiving tradition that I just started yesterday and probably won't do again. Which is to drink this particular beer, which is called Snowdrift Vanilla Porter from Leinenkugel's, which is kind of interesting because I have heard of Leinenkugel's before, but literally the only thing that I've ever seen from them in any store or anything is summer shandy, and I see it all year round, not just in summer. So I didn't know that they actually made beer. I thought they just made the summer shandy or something. I'm like, oh, they actually make beer. So yeah, I got a whole buttload of bottle caps for you too, Chris. I got literally actually a 32-ounce cup this size, which is full of them. So this is my Sean Drinks Something Stupid this week, which is in my cool Todd Helton cup. He was the Rocky that was good.
Tom Hilton, the
Todd.
singular Rocky.
Todd Helton, yes, the singular Rocky that was good. No, we've had good ones occasionally from here and there. So, yeah. So I'm gonna say something live in our chat, which you can read if you're here with us. So, Chris, what you playing lately?
I've been playing a hell of a lot of PUBG, which is a game I came to about 4 years too late. I want to say, but I've been having fun with it, even though it is one of those games where you can spend 20 minutes doing nothing, and then about 0.5 seconds dying,
Mm-hmm.
and losing the match. But yeah, I've been having fun with that. I also briefly played Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 before it crashed on my computer, but other than that, I've been having fun with those games. As you can see here, I'm also playing Hotline Miami again,
Yeah.
because that's a thing that's pretty easy to do well mindlessly.
Mm-hmm. All I know about Hotline Miami, I learned from Travis Strikes Again.
Really.
Yeah. I've never actually. I keep meaning to get around to play it, and sometimes I see like the collection on Switch for like super cheap on sale or something, and I'm like, should I do that? And then I don't, for no particularly good reason. But there's a mini game in Travis Strikes Again that's inspired by it. One of the video games that you get transported into. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. Sounds pretty cool.
Anywho, today Sean drinks something stupid. I'm not sure what to call this, but I had some apple juice hanging around, and I thought, well, if an orange juice and a vodka is called a screwdriver, then maybe apple juice and vodka is a hammer? Or a wrench? What do you think?
Vodka and apple juice, probably. It's probably like a. I don't know. Yeah, hammer. Hammer sounds about right.
Hammer? Yeah. Because it'll get you.
Torsion wrench would be that in tequila.
Right.
Be like.
Whereas you get orange juice, apple juice, and tequila, then it's like a miter saw. Something like that.
Miter saw.
This isn't bad. I am a grown-ass man, and I fucking love apple juice. And this tastes like apple juice, because apparently if you put in vodka and apple juice, you don't notice the vodka.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a grown-ass man who likes his apple juice.
That's good, because I am a grown-ass man who likes my apple juice. Here, you gonna try my apple juice and vodka? This is also the only podcast on the internet where my wife randomly comes in to drink my apple juice and vodka.
Sounds good.
You dig it?
Thanks.
Oh, fuck. Well, I got a beer. That's fine. All right. Chris, what are you drinking this week?
Oh, that is so much.
I am drinking a peanut butter porter from Denver Beer Co.
Yummy.
That's
We
good
forgot to rate
classic.
our beers last week also. I realized as I was getting the podcast ready to post on the audio versions and stuff. So I think we have to drink this week for forgetting to rate our beers last week.
Hey, I'll drink to that.
There you go. Yeah, you stole my catchphrase. No. I mean,
I stole your catchphrase. We'll drink to that.
so I will. Yeah, so what do you rate that beer there, Chris? Is that what you had last week?
That is not what I. So I've been on like a peanut butter beer kick.
Neat.
Where I've been drinking a lot of. My guy just threw up on the ground there. I've been drinking like peanut butter stouts and porters. I had a peanut butter stout from Left Hand Brewing Company last week, which I was like, yeah, that was flavorful. That was nice and tasty. And peanut butter graham cracker porter from Denver Beer Co. is also really good. So,
Yeah.
I'd say this particular batch, I would make the porter would edge out the stout just by a little bit, is what I would say.
Cool. What do you rate that on a scale of 3 to 17?
16 at the very least.
That's very good. Yeah. So this apple juice, I'm going to give it a good 14 because I fucking love apple juice, you know. And if you're going to make a cocktail out of it, it's something, it might as well be something that you enjoy. So check that out if you're in the know. As for what you're playing this week, I've been playing Age of Calamity literally nothing but since Friday. I don't think I've picked up another... I've briefly touched Pokemon Go, which is funny because they announced this whole thing we covered last week or 2 weeks ago where if you are playing Pokemon Go and you get to level 40 by the end of the year, you'll get a secret achievement basically, and it'll be really rare and awesome. And I'm like, I'm level 39, I should get there. And then I just didn't even consider Pokemon Go as a thing for 5 days straight. Because I've been playing all the Age of Calamity. I about pooped myself yesterday because I set it up and I was going to have my kid play with me. And so I start up my game and he's, just at the age where he can read most stuff by himself, but he doesn't always take the time to, so he picks new game, and I'm like, no, don't do it, and it says, this will delete your old game, and he pushes yes, and I'm like, no, screaming,
Did I ever...
don't do it.
Did I ever tell you about the time when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I did that to my older brother with Super Mario 64?
Did you delete
his file? I deleted all of his 120 star saves.
Wow. Yeah.
And
it wasn't too bad for me because we caught it in time and he got to the point where it asks him to select his difficulty and stuff, and I was like, no, and I closed out of the app, out of the game, and reset it, and all my stuff was still there, but I was just like, oh my god, are you... Because I had literally played 40 hours of this game this week, and I was not going to be happy if he had just... I'm like, I
had
just
to do all that
got
over again.
The most grindy, unlockable character I've ever got in anything. Why? I was like, I was sure my data was gone, and I was so sad, but I was so relieved when I saw it was fine. So... yeah, my wife's gonna come yell at us for a minute.
I thought my husband was going to cry. I truly did.
I understand that.
I wouldn't have cried, but I would have drank a lot more.
Or kill our firstborn.
Don't worry, I'll only
Going
kill
full
Mario.
Rumpelstiltskin there, huh?
You do that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been playing all the Age of Calamity. It's have you got around to that yet, Chris? Are you still
I have not.
There you go.
That was a game I was thinking about picking up. I was like, some other stuff came up, so I have yet to get it.
All right. Well, we'll probably be talking about it next week on the podcast, so get it this week. be spoiled.
Get this week and do the right thing.
Yes. I mean, the right thing was to get it on launch day, clearly, because it's, a Zelda game.
And it's good.
Zelda adjacent. Yeah, it's really good, actually. It's one of our news topics this week, so actually, let's start with that. Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity has sold over 3 million units just in its launch weekend, so it's actually probably beyond that today, because this was as of Monday, it sold 3 million units. So it's a 4-day launch weekend. That's
Holy crap.
That's pretty good. 3 million. That is the highest selling Musou Warrior games of all time now. Just literally outsold every other game in the series in a weekend. I'm just like, holy crap, that is impressive. I knew it was going to pull numbers, but I was like, I didn't expect it to be quite that big that fast. And I also didn't realize how much of a niche the Warriors games were, because I would have expected that, it's a long-standing popular series. Everybody's heard of it, at least. I would have expected that something has sold more than 3 million, but apparently not even Hyrule Warriors, the original one, sold over 3 million, which obviously, depending on what game, obviously anything over 1 million is still impressive as shit, but not everything can be Animal Crossing, right? They're Pokemon. So
True.
What do you think of that? Have you ever played another Warriors game?
I've never played another Warriors game. It's something I always kind of was interested in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, generally I like them. They're, not your, most thought-provoking games of all time. But the hack and slash combat is always super fun. It's a good co-op game in general. We've had a lot of fun just playing co-op in Hyrule Warriors now, because obviously, most Zelda games you don't get a co-op mode, and so this is really cool for that.
It's great for couples.
It is. You heard it here first.
Yeah, having a co-op mode in any Zelda game has always been kind of a huge plus for me, so
Yeah.
I can play more than one.
be excited to be able to use that. Is that online? Do you know if that's online or
I
not?
don't know if it's online. If it is, then we should totally get together and, play some online Hyrule Warriors. But at the very least, it's, couch co-op, which is awesome because couch co-op is, almost a thing of the past these days, especially on, other consoles on, Xbox and PlayStation. I feel like for the last generation have been trying to move as far away from any kind of local multiplayer as they possibly can. So I'm glad that a lot of Switch games are still providing a good co-op multiplayer experience. All right, next piece of news and booze. Magic the Gathering has some news. Their next secret lair drop, which if you missed one of our podcasts a while ago, I actually unboxed a secret lair drop of Godzilla lands. Their next one is going to be a series of basic lands featuring artwork by Bob Ross.
Which is interesting, because I mean, do you think he's painted any swamps that would fit like the art style of like a MTG swamp?
I did see the images. You can look them up online. The swamp is not necessarily it almost looks like it's got like a filter put on it to make it a little more swampy. But it's kind of this marshish area because he painted all sorts of different landscapes and things like that. So the art that they chose, I think, is all very good. I like Bob Ross's art anyways. I watched a buttload of Joy of Painting when I was a kid. It was just like one of those things that was on between Thomas the Tank Engine and Batman. So I watched a lot of Bob Ross because that was back in the day when you didn't just get to say, yeah, no, I'm going to watch all 700 episodes of Pokemon, Dad.
That's our kids.
All 700 episodes. Wow.
I mean, actually, there's more total episodes of Pokemon than that. I don't know how many my children have watched, but it is a lot.
That is almost up to One Piece levels there.
Actually, I believe last I checked, the Pokemon anime had more total episodes than One Piece. It did start 1 year earlier. So I believe the Pokemon anime is over 1,000 episodes now. So So, what do you think? You gonna spend $50 on basic land because Bob Ross painted it?
Hell no. But that sounds pretty cool, though.
Me neither. It is really cool. But it's like I feel like I would get this if I had some fuck you money to just be like, I have this, and these are ones that, like the Godzilla lands, I put in big old giant sleeves to actually play with. The Bob Ross ones, I feel like I would just like frame those and put them up like an actual work of art, because that's what they are. I mean, it's literally 10 works of art, because you get 2 of each basic land with different Bob Ross paintings featured as the art. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. I like that. IO Interactive has announced a new 007 game. IO Interactive is them dudes what make Hitman. So if you've ever played a Hitman game, then you'd know what they're about. So I think this is kind of interesting, because a lot of the other James Bond games, all the classic ones are made by EA, and they're all kind of action shooters, whereas James Bond isn't really an action guy in any of the movies, so I think this different kind of Hitman take on it, if they go the way that they've done the Hitman games and have kind of a stealth action merged, I think that could be kind of interesting for a James Bond game. What do you think?
I mean, that would definitely be true to the movies. It'd be interesting kind of playing a Hitman-esque James Bond game.
Yeah, doing a little actual espionage like, James Bond, instead of just, I think in one of them there was like a cool espionage intro mission, and then the rest of them it's just, it's a first-person shooter, It's hard to make interesting espionage content for a first-person shooter, I guess, or I don't know. I just think their direction was entirely different than... Which isn't to say that it was bad. I mean, obviously, GoldenEye was, a really awesome party shooter way back in the day. We played a lot of Nightfire in the original Xbox generation, as well as this is also on PS2 and GameCube, which is it's funny because I went over to a buddy's house one time to play Nightfire, and he had it on GameCube, and it was super weird playing a first-person shooter with the C stick. That's not like a full joystick. It's like it is a full joystick, but it's just got that nub instead of a full joystick pad, So it was super weird to play.
Your thumb can lose like grip and stuff.
Yeah, and as well the triggers on the GameCube controller, as like they were good triggers, but they did not lend themselves well to first-person shooters, I think. So I was just like, coming from the Xbox controller into that game, I was like, I feel like I should know how to play this game, but I feel like I don't know how to play this game, especially because also I'm used to the ABXY on Xbox at that point, and I'm trying to figure out all the, the weird-ass way the buttons were configured on GameCube is, like, completely difficult to actually translate in your head on the fly. So it was like, it was fun, though.
That's what I remember about that game.
Is it?
That it was kind of difficult to
play on GameCube controller?
Yeah, well, that it was just kind of difficult to map all the controls in your head.
Right.
It was like most of the game was about figuring out the controls. I've kind of felt that way about first-person shooters that have to operate on controller anyway, though. So,
right.
Which I know is not the case for people who like play Halo.
Yeah, obviously playing as much Halo as I do, I'm like completely good on that now, but then if I tried to play Halo on a GameCube controller, that'd be weird as shit. Alright, next piece of news and booze. The Medium has a release date, which is going to be January 28th next year. So right at the start of the year, we're getting the Medium, which will be coming to Xbox Series S and X, as well as PC. And it's going to be available day one on Xbox Game Pass. So that'll be really the first next-gen exclusive Xbox game. I mean, exclusive. Obviously, there's not really Xbox exclusives anymore, because everything they make on Xbox, they put on PC day one, pretty much, and, from Microsoft first-party games. So,
which I mean, hey, I appreciate that, but it's kind of limiting if you're trying to sell a console.
right, but I feel like they sell their product in different ways and just have totally different marketing strategies that it probably works anyways. Because, whether a guy like you has PC or a guy like me has an Xbox, there is something to be found in Game Pass. I know you're not totally into the games as a service thing, but,
Yeah.
it's still, I feel like they're driving Game Pass more than they're driving console sales, and that's where they're trying to make up their money. And I think it'll probably work by the end of this generation, whether they sell a lot of Xboxes or not.
What do you think you'll be able to rent an Xbox directly from Microsoft? Do you think they're going to go that route?
I don't know.
So you rent the Xbox and then you do the Game Pass?
I mean, they already have the financing thing where you can basically rent to own. So it's like no upfront cost, and then you pay like $25 a month, or $35 a month, and then depending on, it's like $25 for a Series S, I think, and a $35 for a Series X. That comes with Game Pass rolled into the price. So you get all your online, you get all your Game Pass games, and you get the console, and then over the 24 months, or 36 months or whatever it is, you basically sign a contract to say, yeah, I'll pay this over this time, and then you get the console, no upfront cost. So, I mean, that's basically the same thing, right?
Yeah, that is basically the same thing.
Yeah.
It's almost, seems kind of dystopian to me.
Mm-hmm. It's a little
just
weird.
A little
I
bit.
did kind of consider it, but then I was just like, yeah, I'd rather, just buy it outright. I think that works easier. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I don't know. But the Medium in general looks like a really cool game. I don't know if you've seen any of the trailers for it, but it is one of the few games I'm looking at for the next gen that really looks like it's taking advantage of the next gen hardware. Because one of its it's basically its big gameplay gimmick is that you are able to see like your world and the spirit world at the same time is kind of what it looks like. So you're literally looking at two versions of the world that are simultaneously rendering side by side, and you're controlling yourself in both worlds at the same time, which really looks like it looks like a thing that wouldn't have been doable without the speed of an SSD to load both worlds simultaneously. So I am super excited about this. I am, apparently on January 28th, I'm downloading that right away, and I'm going to check it out. I think this looks fucking cool. So,
what was the name of it again?
The Medium.
The Medium.
Yeah. They're making a Tetris movie. Just based off of that statement, I want your reaction, and then I will explain the rest of it.
Gross.
Nice. So this Tetris movie...
That's my reaction.
The Tetris movie is not going to be based on Tetris the game. It is, but it isn't. It's more or less a biopic of the guy who created Tetris originally, this Russian dude. It was a one-man team back in the 80s that created Tetris. So he's being played by Taron Egerton, who recently was also in the biopic of Elton John, and did a fantastic job as that. He's also been in Kingsman, a couple other big movies lately. So I like Taron Egerton pretty well. Everything I see him in, I'm like, yeah, he's pretty good. So I'm kind of excited for this. Are you more excited for this than you would be for a movie actually based on the game?
Yeah, now that I know it's about the guy, that sounds way more interesting
than, four Tetramitos just coming out of the sky or something.
Like the
what do you even do with that?
Emoji movie or whatever that I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Based on the name.
Right. It's just four Tetraminos just like hanging out in a condo. Just like
it's just Seinfeld.
Like one of them's the lazy guy, and they all are like, T-Block, you haven't paid rent in months. What are you even doing?
That sounds genuinely awful.
Myself, man. That's literally what the Angry Birds movie was. It was terrible. And
it was just half baked, but
right.
But with Angry Birds.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I just remember, like, just how awful it was. I don't remember a lot of the plot details, but it was, like, supposed to be, like, this sitcom, almost, is what it felt like. But badly written. Anyways, this last piece of news and booze I think you'll find very exciting because I know you were a fan of the first one. Square Enix has announced Neo, The World Ends With You, which is a sequel to the original coming summer 2021.
Huh.
You just jizz your pants?
I'm trying to figure out where they could have gone from the original.
I'm not sure. I meant to play it for like a long time, and then they said it was coming to Switch, and I was like, sweet, and I pre-ordered it for Switch, and then I didn't have money at the time, and then I never got back to it, and then, I think, like, earlier this year, I think it came out last year, and earlier this year sometime, I was, like, at GameStop, and they were like, you still have $5 down on The World Ends With You. I was like, I do? Oh, yeah, that game came out a long time ago, didn't it?
Yeah. It came out... I played that game. I last played that game when I was like 15. It was not a new game then.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, because the original was for original DS, so that was quite a while ago. Yeah. So I'm interested. I would like to play the first one still. Maybe I'll get around to it eventually. I guess we'll see. So how hyped are you on a scale of 3 to 17 for Neo: The World Ends With You?
Neo, The World Ends With You.
Yeah.
I'm like 5. I'm like, it sounds interesting, but I don't really know where they would go with it if they do like a different gameplay thing or what.
Yeah. All right. And I guess that's all she wrote for the news and booze. Shall we get into our table topic for the week?
Absolutely.
So the table topic this week is how to handle spin-off campaigns set within the same canonical universe.
Spin-off campaign. That's a good one.
Yeah, because I feel like there's a couple of different ways that I've had DMs go and I've thought about going and different things. Because sometimes, it'll be like with the same play group, and sometimes it'll be with multiple play groups that are kind of playing around in the same world, or even going through technically the same campaign, but, depending on which direction they go, they might do something else. So have you ever DM'd for something like that, or played for something like that?
Only just recently, I started playing running a game that's set in the same world, but technically takes place several countries apart, but at the same time as the original game for the same group. And it's set just a few months earlier than the original game started, but since they're both the kinds of games that could run for multiple years, it kind of remains to be seen if and when they might overlap with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, it's new territory for me, and I haven't gotten to anything that might... haven't gotten to any of like the crunchy details that might affect that sort of thing yet.
Right. I've played in a couple of campaigns that took place within the same canonical universe with our buddy Owen, who we mentioned from time to time. He kind of likes to, create all of these stories as a, one cohesive universe in a lot of his homebrew stuff. So it's kind of cool. Sometimes you don't even really think about it though, because it's like a totally different part in time in his vast history that he has. It's very impressively created. I really like checking out all the history and being like, sometimes it's like ancient history is like a past campaign that we completed, and sometimes like one of our characters like became a deity or something that will be like, hey, I know that guy. So it's I think those are all kind of interesting. Particularly the last couple campaigns I've been playing with him are all... I think we've played 3 campaigns that are all now in the same universe right about the same time. So that's been kind of interesting to just kind of see, how the world is, in this part of the country, in this part of the country, and whatever, from different perspectives. And then obviously you've got your in one campaign we're a little bit murder hobo-y, and in another campaign we're all kind of, just this like military group that's just trying to scrape by through this other part of the country where the war is more prevalent. So it's kind of interesting switching between those two campaigns with the same group, because sometimes we're going around, having. I actually also, I think we were in a third one with a different group with him, but it's in the same universe that we were going through, and it was interesting because we had like a similar adventure in that one, and then a similar adventure in the next one, and so when we got back and he's recapping, he's like, what did we do last time? And I'm like, oh yeah, we did this, and then we killed this guy, and then we're like, every other player was just like, what the hell are you talking about, man? I'm like, oh, it's all oh no, never mind, that was the other rat folk in the other campaign that we did. So
That's pretty funny.
yeah, you get a little bit of a hilarity that way sometimes, but what you gonna do.
Can you imagine PvPing against your own characters from a different party?
Now there's an idea. That would also
Actually,
make a great spin-off campaign.
Did most recently have an event in Nick's game where a character that was originally in my game that a different character played was sent there by one of the gods to challenge us.
Mm-hmm.
And so this character was like a lord of one of the primary gods. He was like a champion of one of the primary gods of this other world, which ended up being kind of an interesting way of moving that character over.
Right. Yeah, so what do you think would be something to avoid if you were going to do some sort of spin-off campaign or some sort of, another adventure within the same universe?
I think we're both thinking of a similar example that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. Could be.
That we both experienced. I don't know if you want to say it or not.
I don't know. Which one?
So, and not to pick on Dan here.
Damn.
But there was the game where he ran the same world at the same time, multiple different player character groups
Dan's the guy who
with different players, and they ended up interfering with us in a way that we couldn't really combat.
Mm-hmm.
Which obviously that's not something that's like likely to happen, but it did happen, and it seems like the sort of thing you'd want to have like a game plan for knowing that it could happen.
Yeah, something like
especially
that
in the future.
Because which I think he's openly admitted that this was a little bit of a, he thought it would be a cool idea, and I think if it was implemented a little differently, it could have been a really cool idea. But basically what happened in this was that one of the player characters, killed some guy and then planted some evidence so that it wouldn't look like he had killed him. I forget exactly the conditions, but then for some reason the other party going through this campaign found this dead guy and saw that he was murdered by I think the evidence he planted was basically this crossbow bolt from a drow crossbow. So and we're in a dungeon full of drow, so it makes perfect sense that this dude was just slaughtered by drow. But then, on a wild hair, for no particularly good reason, the other player characters in the other group just decided that, no, this is fishy for some reason, which, to this day, nobody really knows why they thought it was fishy. Because there was no, he rolled so perfectly on his, checks and everything, and Dan didn't describe it as looking sketchy at all. It just was those particular players were suspicious of this for some reason, and so they kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it until eventually it came up that in our part of the campaign we were all wanted criminals, and then we ended up like detouring out of town and then getting lost in the woods for like 6 side adventures and never managed to figure our way back to the beaten path. It was really awkward. So that is a potential thing to do that. Hey, we actually have a guy that's commenting and stuff. It's our good buddy Josh. Hi, Josh. I'm just noticing.
Hey, Josh. What's up?
Actually, we have 3 concurrent viewers, so that's a new record. So we have to drink.
Yeah, I'm drinking for that.
Oh, can't believe it. 3 viewers at once.
That's triple our original viewer count.
Actually, I think our record from last week was 2. Oh, we're back down to 2. We lost a viewer. We have to drink again.
Damn it.
I called them out. They're like, "Oh, let's fucking leave." So if you are watching live, you can tweet us any question about or a comment about the topic that we're talking about, and we'll take your comments and we'll talk it over. Or if you just want to say drink in the chat, we will totally drink. That's a new rule of Drink to the Past since we started live streaming. I said it last week in the chat, but nobody chatted last week. So anyways.
How dare they?
Yeah. So, Josh says, I hear a sound of victory. I hear a sound of victory. The media say what? Ha 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 ha.
Yeah, don't bring politics into this, Josh.
Yeah, you dick. Hey, we're back up to 3 concurrent viewers. I don't know if that guy came back or if we found another one, but hello and welcome. So anyways, we're in the middle of our table topic if you're just joining us. And if you want to catch the entire thing, you can, of course, catch this over on Apple Podcasts or Podbean later tonight. If you just want the audio version, and it'll probably be done buffering and all that bullshit earlier tomorrow morning for YouTube. So we're talking about how to handle spin-off campaigns set within the canonical universe for those of you just joining us. So how do you think this would be, like, best introduced? What do you think the best possible way? Because we've kind of gone over a couple of different ways to really do this, where we're like, okay, yeah, you can have different play groups that kind of affect each other, or you can have, like, different time periods within the same universe. Do you think there's a best way, or what are your favorite ways?
I think the best way to do, 2 different player groups in the same universe at the same time, would be to, whenever they intersect, have them meet up. Obviously, this isn't feasible for, most of the time, but to be like, hey, you guys are about to meet this other player group, I'm going to run this session for the both of you. Mm-hmm. It's best in the sense that it's the most functional. It's not best in the sense of, working with everyone's schedules.
Right.
As we know, scheduling is the bane of modern day D&D.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem. Even with, like, all the online shit and COVID now, sometimes it's just like one guy won't be able to get off Saturday or, whenever you're doing it. So
yeah.
It's an issue. Tom Thurman comments, what do you think about long labia minora?
About what?
Long labia minora.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks for asking that question.
Is that a question that you understand?
Not really.
Okay.
I don't.
Tom?
I'm more concerned about why he asked it. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you for your question, Tom. That's apparently our answer.
Our answer is thanks. I don't have any particular thoughts about that. What of it? You got some struggles you're dealing with there?
I don't know. I'm since he mentioned menorah, even though it's not spelled like menorah, I'm like thinking, oh yeah, Hanukkah's coming up, isn't it? I'm not Jewish, but as a kid, like, I celebrated Hanukkah, and yeah. Now he says, I love meaty pussy. Is this guy just a troll? Maybe.
Yes.
So, thank you for trolling us, Tom. We've had a wonderful time, and we'll drink to you. I'm out of that.
So this isn't a problem. It's like I don't know, bragging. We'll see.
I don't know.
How hard is it to shoot at these people? There we go.
So, anyways, all right. Is there any other thoughts you have on handling spin-off campaigns within the same canonical universe?
Let's see. Well, do you have like an idea of a second best way of handling that?
I don't know, cause like all the ways that I've had are like good, but also maybe a little double-edged sword-y. You know, I think the best way to handle it is to kind of just keep them, you know, like reference the things that the other players have done in other campaigns, or be like, hey, there's this, you know, I wouldn't make a side quest out of it or anything, but I'd be like, hey, there's these other group of adventurers that have been here lately, and they're pretty cool. So I don't know, something like that. I feel like would be appropriate. You know, something that like, yeah, you're throwing in this thing there. You might, you know, exalt their deeds, but not have it directly impact the other player characters in something like this.
And PvP is more typically banned, so why would PvP by proxy be any different?
Yeah, because it's essentially PvP is what we ended up having, even though it wasn't directly PvP. It was like PvE makes E more aggressive towards P ish, if that makes sense, which it probably doesn't.
Yeah, PvP by proxy. They use the environment against us.
Yep.
God.
All right, so I'm going to get into my beer of the week, which I said earlier is the Leinenkugel Snowdrift Vanilla Porter. So if you're here for the beer reviews, sorry it took this long. But, you know, what are you going to do?
Review some beer?
I'm going to drink some beer. That's what I'm going to do. Because beer is beer. That's why we call it a drink to the past, because we drink and we're in the past. Except for right now, we're live streaming, so we're in the future. Or the present? I don't know. Chris is probably in pain because he keeps getting shot and dying.
Does hurt a lot.
Yeah. Do we have to drink every time you die in this one like we did when Crow was playing Cadence of Hyrule?
No, because we would die from alcohol poisoning.
Mm-hmm. That's probably true. Shall we get into our video game topic, or is there any last-minute thoughts you got on handling spin-off campaigns within the same canonical universe?
I don't have any particularly more thoughts. I might have more thoughts in the future.
Right. Got our
I have more experience with that.
So, our video game topic for this week is what makes spin-offs good, what makes them bad, and what are the best and worst examples of spin-off games in gaming. Which kind of comes up because I was talking about, you know, I've been playing Age of Calamity. I think Age of Calamity is a great spin-off. I think the first Hyrule Warriors was a pretty good spin-off as well. And I think sometimes spin-offs do a really good job of, you know, kind of helping out, you know, or I don't know, just doing something differently than the original content did, in a way that makes it unique and cool. Tom Thurman says he has no idea what makes a good spin-off.
Well, first you should focus on being a good game, I would say.
That helps.
I mean, how many spin-offs can you think of that were just, like, cheap cash grabs?
Good question. Probably some, right?
Yeah. Just, like the Zelda CDI games, which were not, in fact, the best games ever.
That is true. They were not, in fact, the best games ever. Because, obviously, you know, there was, E.T., right?
Do you know how, Tingle's Rose-Colored Rupee Land was reviewed?
because it only released in Japan, actually they like Tingle pretty well over there. He's a much more popular character than he is stateside. So actually, I believe it reviewed decently. I've heard from people who have played it, because there was an English localization, but it was not ported to the United States. It was, or North America specifically. It was ported to the European regions. So I believe that it reviewed okay. I've heard from people that it was a fun, decent game. And if you like Tingle, then you'd find something to love. And personally, I just fucking hate Tingle. I am the American that kept them from, actually porting it to the United States because I hate him.
I mean, there is the trope: Americans hate Tingle.
Moonrazer comments, a Beyblade makes a good spin-off. And Tom Thurman replies, vinyl records make a good spin-off. So I will drink to both of those because we have to drink every time there is a or a good bad joke. Good dad joke? Bad dad joke. Any of those things.
A joke.
You spin me right round 2, Moonrazer. We'll drink to you.
I would like to point out that I've totally lost the thread on what's going on here.
Although Spin Me Right Round is not nearly as good a song as Round and Round, Rad is awesome.
You keep on
messing up
your words, I'm going to pull those drinks away from you.
No, that means I have to drink more. That's the rules. You know that. I might ask you to get me another beer in a minute. As long as you're up.
I am not your servant.
But you are up.
I love you.
I love you so. Anyways, now back to whatever we were talking about. So, I feel like one of the funny things about Warriors games in general is that a lot of them are spin-offs. Because obviously you've got kind of the main series Warriors, and then you have actually a lot of different Warriors spin-off games, like the Hyrule Warriors. You got the Gundam Warriors. You got there's the new Persona Warriors coming out next year, and the Fire Emblem Warriors came out last year or 2 years ago, something like that. So
they're kind of like the Total War games in that.
Yeah, so you get all sorts of different things in them, but at the same time, they're all still uniquely Warriors-style gameplay. So it's a different thing. And then what makes Age of Calamity, I feel like, technically the best of them. In my opinion, it's the best Warriors game I've ever played. Because, first of all, I'm just a, Zelda nut. I'm just like, yeah, it's got all these Zelda characters, so obviously that gives it a good plus. It's staying true to the content insofar as it's making for a really fun story experience, but it's also bringing something new to the Zelda series by making it a heavy action-focused game instead of a, like Breath of the Wild. I would say I like the combat better in Breath of the Wild than I do in Hyrule Warriors, but it's comparing apples and oranges at that point, because you're a heavy combat-focused game versus a game with more kind of slower-paced, strategic-ish combat. It's obvious it's fast-paced enough that it keeps it fun and interesting in Breath of the Wild, but it's slower than fighting 8 billion enemies at once like in Hyrule Warriors, and you have to be more strategic in what you're actually doing. So I think there are games that make a better balance, but sometimes it's fun to just just go wham, cleaving through lines of 100 guys at once and all that shit. It brings something different that you would not get in the mainline series, while at the same time it still supports a lot of the things that make Zelda. It's got the characters, It's got the story, it's got the lore,
but not the gameplay.
Yeah, not the gameplay. But it's got different gameplay that's good, so it fucking works.
Would you say that a spin-off needs to appeal to the audience of the main series games to necessarily be considered good?
I don't know, because I think it not necessarily to be considered good, because I think a game can be good whether or not regardless of its target audience. Because at the one point, a spin-off can, be kind of trying to get people from its target audience to come, from its original audience. Like, say it's a Zelda spin-off, you're trying to get into Zelda fans and get them in. But a lot of Zelda fans I've heard, are just not interested in Warriors gameplay at all, but they've tried it out because, of the other things that it has, the lore, and there's more exploration in Age of Calamity than there has been in any other Musou game. So I think that's an important thing to consider when you're making a spin-off, but I don't think it's necessary to be good. Because as a Fire Emblem fan, I would have hated Fire Emblem Warriors. But as a Warriors fan, I really enjoyed it. That's another kind of thing, though, is when you're getting these crossover games, it's part spin-off and it's part crossover, where, I like Warriors games, so I liked Fire Emblem Warriors. If I was in it for all of the Fire Embleminess, then I would have found literally nothing, because it's got like Fire Emblem characters mostly from recent games. There's very few classic Fire Emblem characters, so I kind of think they missed out on that. And the gameplay is strictly Warriors gameplay. There is nothing strategic about it at all. It's like, even the Age of Calamity now is like 800 times more strategic, which is weird because Fire Emblem is a strategy game. So you'd think they'd add something in there. And there's little bits of strategy. Like, I think they had the weapon triangle, but it's like, if you're, like, patient enough, it doesn't fucking matter. You will get them, right? No matter what the weapon triangle says in that game. And the story was nothing even close to as good as any Fire Emblem story ever. Because Fire Emblem, obviously, has a lot of really great characters and a lot of really great stories, depending on which game. And that's one of the few story or games where I really play for the story and the characters more than the gameplay, because the gameplay in Fire Emblem I think is fun, but I'm just not really a big fan of tactical RPGs and stuff like that, and tactics games in general. But I like Fire Emblem's gameplay enough that it gets me through, and I'm really sticking around for the stories with the characters and their relationships with each other and all that kind of stuff. So in that regard, I think Fire Emblem Warriors really, really, really dropped the ball and was not even anything close to the original series, but I still think it was a good game. But the story felt like it was just a, cobbled together pile of, like, let's shoehorn in this character, let's shoehorn in this character. And so every time you're meeting a new character from a new game, it's just like, hey, here's a level, and they think you're the bad guy, they don't trust you, so you have to fight them. Like, literally, that's a story point that's repeated like 4 times in this game. It's like the new characters that they created specifically for this game add literally nothing to the story. It is a bad story, but the level designs are cool, the characters are cool with fun movesets to play as and stuff like that. So I think there is a better balance to be struck. I think Age of Calamity strikes that balance much, much better. Or for another example of a spin-off, I really love Cadence of Hyrule, which strikes that balance, where it's like, the gameplay is really, it feels like a Zelda game on the beat. That's the only real difference. It's got some of those roguelike elements, but not as hard as the original Crypt of the Necrodancer roguelike. Obviously, that's like a traditional roguelike. Like, every time you go in anywhere, it's different. This one, it's just like the dungeons are roguelike, and the overworld is randomly generated once at the start of the game. So it's like, it's got those elements, but it doesn't stop it from just literally feeling like a Zelda game. So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the most important things, is to retain some feeling of the original. Because, like, as a spin-off, I didn't care for Fire Emblem Warriors as well. I liked it because I liked the characters and I thought they were fun to play as, and that was about it. I think as a spin-off, to bring people from the Fire Emblem franchise into the Musou franchise, it did literally nothing. But to bring Muso lovers into the Fire Emblem franchise, maybe it worked. Maybe it's like, oh, I like this character. I want to see more about what they're about. Maybe I'll check out Fire Emblem Fates or Awakening or whichever. They had a couple of the older ones, but mostly it was Fates and Awakening. I feel like, which at the time were obviously the newest games. So it's like, okay, I feel like this is a little bit of a cash grab theirs, like you were talking about earlier. Not like terrible, because they had like Lynn and I'm trying to think of all the classic ones they had.
They have Marth, Roy. You know all the all the characters that are Super Smash Bros. Famous. No, no Marth.
Yeah. I think they had Marth. I don't think they had Roy. I would have liked Roy or Ellawood or fucking Hector. Hector was awesome. Or like Erica from Sacred Stones, or anyways, there's a ton of characters. That's one of the problems, I guess, with this sort of game, is that literally you have, probably over 1,000 playable characters. Maybe not that, but easily over 100, because there's probably 20 or 30 per game in the Fire Emblem series, right? So several hundred characters to draw from. What do? You do the thing that'll sell most, I guess. Like, look, Chrom is here. Everybody wants to touch his blue-haired anime boy bod.
Would your point be kind of that you thought, say, Fire Emblem Heroes or Fire Emblem Warriors was like a decent game, but not a good spin-off? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it was a good spin-off to a point, because I think any Warriors fan that bought it might suddenly be interested in the main series, but I do not think the opposite is true. I do not think anybody bought it being like, I'm a big Fire Emblem fan, I'm going to try this out, and then thought, oh, this is amazing, now I'm going to play every Warriors game ever. Because I feel like there's just a big disconnect in gameplay and in, what these games are about that really didn't mesh well together, because Fire Emblem is all story and character, and, Warriors Muso games are all hack and slash action. You can tell a decent story through that, but they didn't, because they were just trying to shoehorn in all this, weird, overly complicated stuff that didn't actually matter just to get other characters into the world. That's what it felt like.
Okay.
So I don't think it was the best spin-off, but it was an okay spin-off. So.
I would ask a more pointed question, which is, do you think a good game can be a bad spin-off?
Probably. I'm trying to think of an example of how exactly that could happen. Because I guess, part of the... I don't know, because I feel like part of the idea of a spin-off is to get a target demographic into the series that wouldn't ordinarily be, or to just do something a little... I don't know. This is kind of a little bit of a interesting question here. I like it. Because I feel like the most successful spin-offs will, get you somebody else interested in the series, however they do that. Like Super Mario RPG or Paper Mario might get in, RPG fans who ordinarily don't like platformers, or it might get, Mario players to go play, oh, hey, Square Enix developed Super Mario RPG, and that game was great, I'm going to go check out Final Fantasy, something like that. So I feel like there's maybe an ulterior motive behind a lot of spin-offs just as a business tactic, and I don't feel like that's necessarily a bad thing, but I feel like you could have a good game in a spin-off setting that didn't necessarily accomplish that.
Okay.
But I'm struggling to actually come up with an example of something that did. I'm thinking here. What do you think? On your own question.
Well, I'm like, does a spin-off have to have a point other than, oh, it's literally just a game from the main franchise, but set as like a side story or not like a direct prequel or sequel or whatever.
Right.
And then you get into like what is a sequel territory, and that's a rabbit hole with no end.
Right.
It's just there's nowhere you can. Oh shit! That guy killed me. A spinoff that would I would say. I'm thinking of like the Divinity Original Sin games, which were actually a spinoff of. I didn't know this, but they were apparently a spinoff of a different franchise called the Divinity franchise, which was more like a Diablo franchise.
Huh. Neat.
And the Divinity games are fairly well known, like CRPGs, but I don't think the original Divinity is as well known.
Right.
I don't think that's a.
Yeah, because I didn't know there was a Divinity before Divinity Original Sin.
So
if somebody said Divinity, I would assume they meant Original Sin. I didn't hear about it before then.
And it's I think it's kind of completely overtaken the original series, and I didn't know. I think it's worth saying I didn't know about the original series until I bothered to like look it up. Be like, hey, where'd this come from? Divinity Original Sin sounded like kind of something that would have been its own thing. It's got the semicolon, the magic semicolon in the title.
Yeah. You know what? I thought of a game that I think fits the description of a good game that is a bad spin-off. And I might catch some flack for just calling this game good, but I liked Final Fantasy Mystic Quest.
My understanding was that Mystic Quest was pretty well liked, but was Mystic Quest the one that was like a retitled, like Secret of Mana?
I don't know. No, that was Final Fantasy Adventure, I think, is what you're thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah, Mystic Quest was actually a little similar to a Zelda game. And I feel like in an alternate reality, like the Zelda series could have gone to Mystic Quest style instead of Link to the Past style. Is how closely I would equate it to the Zelda series at the time. You know, if you reskinned it with Link, I think people would buy it and be like, oh, this is cool. This is a Zelda game. You know, because you're adventuring around, you're getting different items that give you different abilities to climb and stuff. And it's got none of the RPG elements that Final Fantasy is really known for. So I think that's why it gets a lot of flack, is that it's not Final Fantasy distinctly. And I feel like Final Fantasy fans going into this game would be majorly disappointed, because they'd be like, I thought this was going to be a Final Fantasy game, and it's not even close to a Final Fantasy game. But I thought it was fun. I didn't play it for a long, long time, but I thought it was really fun. It kept interesting, by adding new mechanics, regularly enough, but not enough to get overly complicated. It's like, oh, here, you have this magic mitt now. You can climb on mountain terrain, so you can, unlock different areas that way and stuff like that. And
okay, well, by that margin, cool. Is Crystal Chronicles a bad spinoff, but a good game?
I don't know, because I feel like that one's generally more well-liked, but I feel like the same thing could be said about it, because it doesn't present anything, it's more strategic in the combat than Mystic Quest was, but it's still, like, totally different in, like, as far different as it could be from traditional Final Fantasy gameplay, especially in the co-op and all that. And that's another game that I really, really love. Actually, I like that one. That might be one of my favorite spin-offs of all time, actually. But I feel like maybe it's more akin to Final Fantasy, because it's still got the RPG elements it makes it more of an action RPG rather than a strategic RPG. It's not turn-based. You're switching spells on the fly, so you're using your different spells. You're using you're getting upgrades like an RPG that, every level you do, you get an item that adds to your stats and stuff. So you've got all these RPG like elements. So I think that's a better spin-off. I think it's a good spin-off of Final Fantasy. And I think it's a good game. And that's, I think, what distinguishes it, is it does something different. The key difference between that and a regular Final Fantasy game is the fact that it's not turn-based and it's more of an action RPG. And that's really the only major difference.
Okay.
Because it's still very story-driven. It's still maybe not as story-driven as the average Final Fantasy, but it's, the story is still important there. It's kind of keeping you going, and, you still have these base RPG elements, even if they're presented in a little bit of a different way. Beer. I'm going to give this... I haven't rated this beer yet.
So do you think someone who came from Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles to a main series Final Fantasy game wouldn't be thrown at all? You think they would move from that and be like, oh yeah, I like main series Final Fantasy games? Do you think it has the same kind of crossover appeal, or do you think they would be...
I think it's got more crossover appeal than, like, a game that is
Mystic
totally...
Quest?
Yeah, like Mystic Quest, where it's totally just completely bereft of anything Final Fantasy feeling. For the same reason, like, I feel like Fire Emblem Warriors is bereft of anything Fire Emblem feeling. So that's kind of the same thing I would go there. Yeah, so I think the average Final Fantasy aficionado would probably find more to enjoy in Crystal Chronicles than in Mystic Quest. I think for the most part they would enjoy it. They might not be like, oh yeah, this is the greatest game ever, but I think they would generally get a kick out of it. Be like, yeah, this is a cool world with a lot of interesting lore to discover, with interesting characters to meet. The story is cool, and the RPG elements aren't like top tier. Like, it's not Final Fantasy VII or something like that. Where you got everything you do is like going into your character build and stuff like that. But it's got enough reminiscent of that you'd be like, oh yeah, I kind of see what they're doing here. It's pretty cool. So I don't think every Final Fantasy junkie would be all for it, but I think in general most Final Fantasy people would like it okay, if not better. I mean, I'm kind of a Final Fantasy junkie. I'm not like the hugest Final Fantasy junkie, but I've barely...
So
I like most Final Fantasy games, and
All right.
like this game. I love this game.
here's a point I was kind of confused on based off of our earlier conversation. Is a spinoff supposed to convert people to the main series, or are people from the main series supposed to like the spinoffs? Or both?
I think both and either.
Okay.
Because I feel like as long as you do one or the other, you are successful. And if you do both, then you are extra successful. Because I feel like big Warriors players getting into the Zelda lore a little bit, playing this, Age of Calamity now, I feel like they could easily be like, hey, this lore stuff is cool. Or, you know, I really like some of these characters. I'd like to learn more about them. You know, or even in the original Hyrule Warriors, or in, you know, in the... like Fire Emblem Warriors to a lesser extent, I think, you know, there'd be something that a Warriors player might be like, hey, I like the character design, I like the, you know, some of the interactions between the characters, maybe, even though most of them are just feel forced and shoehorned in. But, so that one's not necessarily the worst example of a spin-off, but it's not a great example of a spin-off either, because I feel like most Warriors players would be like, yeah, this is this is okay. But the gameplay is fun, so I'm gonna play it because it's a Warriors game.
So, I mean, is it a good spin-off of a Warriors game, but a bad spin-off of a Fire Emblem?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's an okay spin-off of Warriors, and I think it's a bad spin-off of Fire Emblem. But if you like
Okay.
Warriors games, I think you'll like it because it's a Warriors game.
That's a very interesting criteria.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're a great spin-off, I feel like you'll pull people either direction.
Yeah. I'm satisfied with that criteria.
Yeah. All right.
One last thing.
Yeah.
One last, like, bozo topic.
Mhm.
Mobile spin-offs.
I'm just not a fan of mobile gaming in general, so I guess it kind of depends on how it's handled. Because I do like the way that some of them work. The big ones that I've played are again, going to be a lot of Nintendo stuff. So that's kind of going to be that. But I don't think they could be... I don't know, because I feel like mostly the mobile spin-offs are, like, kind of catering to the demographic of the people who play these games anyway, and they're not necessarily trying to... You know, it's not like a crossover like we're talking about with the with Warriors and whatever. It's more like... you know, they're just trying to find another way to monetize their IP, basically. Like Super Mario Run, for an example, really is just for Mario fans that would like a Mario game that they can just easily play anywhere on their phone. You know, stuff like that. Fire Emblem Heroes is, you know, the same kind of thing with Fire Emblem. But at the same time, I feel like sometimes when they're done well, I feel like the proof is in the pudding, right? That these things work. Like Fire Emblem Heroes blew up. That game was popular as shit. And then immediately after, Fire Emblem Three Houses became the best-selling game in the franchise. So I think there's a point to these. I think they can bring in new gamers to the series because, I mean, it obviously worked. It worked for Pokemon as well. You know, you got a ton of new players and a ton of old players through Pokemon Go. You know, I know a ton of people who, like, started playing Pokemon Go because they were Gen 1ers for forever. And Pokemon Go started as a Gen 1 exclusives. That was all of the Pokemon in the game. And, you know, then people were like, hey, this is actually pretty fun. You know, this isn't bad. Maybe I'll get, you know, into the next one, into Sun and Moon or Sword and Shield when they came out. And those games both sold really, really well. And as well, you know, Pokemon Go itself made bank. It is I think, the highest grossing mobile game of all time. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's what I read. Maybe it's the highest grossing Nintendo mobile game or something. But
I mean, that sounds right to me, considering the popularity of it.
yeah, made
Especially
something
back
like
in 2016.
yeah,
when
made
people
something
were
like
allowed
$1
to go
billion
outside.
in their first year.
Yeah.
Just off of, you know, the easy microtransactions of like, oh yeah, I'm out of Pokeballs. I'll pay $1 for 10 Pokeballs just to get me to the next Pokestop or whatever. And I'm just like, wow, that's incredible. Because I've never spent a dime on the game, and you know, I still have a pretty good time. It's interesting though, because I wouldn't expect myself to have. I never expect myself to have a good time going into any kind of mobile spinoff. And so then when I do have a good time, I'm like really happy with myself and my, you know, deciding to, you know, buy the game or whatever I do, depending on how they monetize it. Like with Pokemon Go is the mobile game that probably the mobile phone game that I've played the most out of any mobile phone game ever. Don't get hit by a car, Chris. It's a bad idea.
It's very difficult to not get hit by the car.
Apparently. Yeah. Watch out. Getting hit by cars all over the place. But, yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, Pokemon Go just kind of has this draw that it's a little bit of a different game no matter where you play it. And it takes advantage of the mobile phone hardware like most games don't. You know, it's the GPS and the fact that real world places kind of influence the game and what's going on. And you're actually, it's, you know, all the AR stuff that they do is, you know, icing on the cake at that point. You know, it's like, I think it's a really unique concept, and I think it's one of the very few games that actually capitalizes on the technology that is available to them on the mobile phone platforms, which is something that I kind of lament in mobile phone games, which is why I don't play very many, because most of them I feel like are just trying to be as easy cash grabs as they can possibly be. Just like,
like
hey,
the
let's
Final
throw this in.
Fantasy. I don't even remember the name of it, but the mobile one that was basically.
Yeah,
Oh
it's,
yeah, you
it's
just
like Dissidia
click
Final Fantasy, except for
Dissidia was
mobile.
fine.
Yeah, I like
No,
the
it wasn't.
original
Don't
Dissidia on
insult
PSP.
Dissidia by comparing it to this.
Yeah,
This
well,
game was just like.
okay, there is a mobile Dissidia, so I'm not sure which one we're talking about. There's several mobile Final Fantasy games, and I've downloaded a few of them and never got around to playing any of them, so I don't know which one is which.
So this is. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a Final Fantasy where basically it was this like the active quick time. It was like Final Fantasy Heroes or something like that. And it was just you would spam a bunch of. You would basically just tap the screen and spam a bunch of like characters at the screen in the active quick time battle, and you'd run out of them, and then you'd just have to spend money to get more, and that was all it was. And that epitomizes like heartless, thoughtless cash grab
Yeah,
to me.
that's kind of what I feel about Dr. Mario World and Mario Kart Tour as well. I feel like they're just kind of there to get your money. Because especially with the gacha systems in both of them, because it's like in order to get anything for free in Dr. Mario World, I think you have to play like probably a good several hours of Dr. Mario to get like one free spin for a random character, but the character might be a doctor and they might be an assistant, and they have like different abilities that they do in the actual Dr. Mario matches, and assistants are basically meaningless. So it's like, what the hell? All I want is like just Dr. Mario, right? The game is named after Dr. Mario. Can't I have Dr. Mario? It's like, no. You get Bowser, and like based on average use of this game, you can reroll once a month to maybe get somebody. And I'm like, I think I have Dr. Bowser and like Dr. Toad or some shit. And I'm just like, I can't even get Mario. And I keep getting all these like stupid assistants like Goomba. I'm like, you know, Toadette. And I'm like, why? Why do I get assistants? I don't even know what they do in the game. I'm just like, this is so weird. And Mario Kart is even worse about that. Although I started playing Mario Kart Tour again recently, not on purpose, but my sister is into it, so I put it on my phone so my kids could play online with my sister. And they seem to like it okay. And they've unlocked several drivers recently, which is weird because when I first played it, like I think I played for a couple hours and I got like one free driver or something, and it wasn't, you know, anybody I gave a shit about. I'm like, I can't get Mario or Peach or whatever. I'm like stuck with Bowser and Toad maybe. I don't remember. But it's like I can't get Mario, I can't get Donkey Kong, I can't get any of these, you know, characters that I actually want because of the gotcha system, and they just feel like cash grabs. Especially Mario Kart Tour felt like it was just lazily made. Because at the very least, Fire Emblem Heroes, the gameplay feels like a real Fire Emblem game. You know, you got your weapon triangle and you got your strategy. It's actually really well designed. I liked playing Fire Emblem Heroes. I didn't play it for very long, again, because the gacha system, and I'm just like, I keep getting these nobodies from Japanese Fire Emblem games that they won't even localize. You know, I don't even know any of the characters I have. And then, but the gameplay really felt like Fire Emblem gameplay, and the Mario Kart gameplay feels like the clunkiest Mario Kart you could possibly, like the Super Nintendo Mario Kart feels better. Right?
Wow, that's bad.
Yeah, and the Super Mario Kart, going back to that, is kind of hard. Like at the time, I remember having a lot of fun with it, like when I was a little kid. But going back to that, it's hard to go back. It's just like everything feels so unnatural in the way that your carts move and stuff like that. It's just weird. So, yeah. Do you play any mobile spin-offs?
No. I was tempted to play Fallout Shelter at one point, but
I
never
that,
played
and
that.
I played it briefly, but it's just really not my style of gameplay.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine is really big into it, and you know, is customizing his shelter and doing all that. It's an interesting concept, but it's really just like, I'm just like, I don't want to micromanage all this shit. I just want to shoot stuff with a shotgun and like hit people with a straight razor. That is Fallout to me. Shotgun and a straight razor.
Fair enough.
And if shit gets real, you know, crazy, I'll bring out my baseball bat.
So I think we got a ranking system here, which is good. Good spin-offs are ones that are good games in their own right, as well as appealing to both new and existing members of a franchise. Or great spin-offs, I'd say. Good spin-offs are those that maybe don't meet all of those criterias, but still do one or the other.
Yeah.
They're good games and they appeal to at least one of those two demographics.
Mm-hmm.
And mediocre spin-offs are those that are like maybe fun games on their own but don't really appeal to either crowd. And then trash is like
Mobile
gotcha games.
Yeah.
Like gotcha games
Fuck every
spin-offs.
gotcha ever. All of them.
I mean, apparently Genshin Impact was like not a spin-off but like a fun gotcha, but that's
Yeah.
a whole other thing.
Yeah, I haven't played Genshin Impact, but I actually keep hearing good things about it, and I guess the gotcha isn't all up in your face, and like because it's all like unique characters anyway, it's not like a gotcha in a existing IP where it's like, you know, in Fire Emblem I'm like, I want Lyn, I want Hector, I want Chrom, I want somebody I recognize, one of these big characters from the games, and I'm getting, you know, the healer from Fire Emblem 4 who was in a Japanese only game, and I'm like, who's this guy? Or like some thief from Fire Emblem Path of Radiance that you didn't use because you had the other thief.
Not Soth, but somebody else.
Yeah, not Soft, but I guess Volk was the other thief. He was kind of story important, so I guess that's a bad example. But you know what I mean. You got the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
They
do know what
gave
you
you
mean.
Nephany from Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, right? It's like the chick that you meet in the jail, and she's a soldier class, and she never has another speaking line for the rest of the story. So there's not really a point in ever using her unless you want to see her, you know, relationship conversations with the support system, which is a legit reason to literally raise anybody in any Fire Emblem game, because that's the best part of Fire Emblem, honestly.
At this point, we're just talking about Fire Emblem. So you want to just continue talking about Fire Emblem?
Yeah, Fire Emblem is great. Everybody go play Fire Emblem. Don't get Three Houses. Get Path of Radiance. I know that Path of Radiance discs are $300, and it is worth your money more than Three Houses is worth your $60. Even if it's even if the new one, yeah. I feel like Path of Radiance for $300 is a better deal than Three Houses, even though it's on sale now because it's Black Friday literally today for $30. That is how much better I think Path of Radiance is than Three Houses. I liked Three Houses.
Is that the game that you had to go search for?
Which
And you're still saying that Three Houses is definitely one of the lesser Fire Emblems.
yeah, in comparison to other Fire Emblems, yeah, I would just say it's on the lower side. It's not a bad game. I liked it. I like a lot of the characters. I don't like all the characters. Some of them I'm just like, yeah, you're there, okay. But yeah, good game. If it gets you into the series, then yeah, definitely go pick up Three Houses. But you know, if you already picked up Three Houses and you want another Fire Emblem game, the best one is Path of Radiance.
I don't understand why Three Houses seems to have been the Fire Emblem game that brought a lot of people into the franchise.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I guess maybe it's partially just popularity of Switch as a system, and people are just, because I feel like a lot of things are coming out on Switch and just going crazy popular. Because obviously you got the best-selling Animal Crossing now. I think the Pokemon games are on track, if they haven't already become the most popular or best-selling Pokemon games. Breath of the Wild sold better on Switch alone than any other Zelda game ever, including, I think, Twilight Princess's combined sales on GameCube and Wii. So just things get released on Switch and they're instant gold. Billions of people buy, not billions, but multi-millions. They have, I think, 6 games or something over 20 million copies sold, which is absolutely insane. So I think it's just something about the Switch that just makes people buy games. It's magic. You should probably shoot that guy instead of shooting past him. That's my advice to you.
Well, the problem is I start in an elevator and it takes a second to open the doors, so it always throws me off.
Uh-huh.
Also, the fat guys sometimes take 2 shotgun blasts to finish off instead of 1.
It's not over till the fat guy gets blasted by a shotgun. Twice.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? I mean, that's just true in all things. Life.
Yeah.
Death.
So I guess you're just aiming with your mouse now and probably moving with the keyboard? Is that how that works? It looks like how that works.
Aim with my mouse and
yeah. So
move
how does
with
that
my
work
keyboard.
on a controller? Do you have to move your reticle and your guy simultaneously?
So there's like auto aim on.
Is it just like go in whichever direction you're placing the thumbstick? Or?
Yeah.
Because mostly I've been looking at this for Switch, because the Switch collection I think is pretty cheap. Although I guess it would probably be the same price, if not cheaper, on Steam. Maybe it'll go on a Steam sale too. So I might get it on PC one of these days. One of these days I'm going to get all the Hotline Miamis and then play one of them and forget the other 2 exist for a long time. Anyways, I think that's all for our spin-off topic. So, good having you guys here. We still have 1 concurrent viewer, so for that 1 concurrent viewer, we will take a drink. That's a new rule. We have to take a drink for every concurrent viewer we have at the end of our final topic.
That sounds like a terrible idea. I refuse to agree to that.
Okay, well, I'm going to agree to that as long as our channel doesn't get popular. Once our channel gets popular, then maybe I'll have to change it to 10 viewers or 30 viewers or 100 viewers.
1,000 viewers.
It depends on how popular we get, I do not expect us to get that popular that quickly, but, we had growth from last week to this week, so I'll take it where I can get it. So, that's awesome. Thank you for joining us. As always, my name is Sean Michael Patrick Thompson, your host of Drink to the Past, and I was joined today by my lovely co-host, Chris owes me $20 Audette.
Hi, I'm Chris, cop killer but bad at it, Audette. Oh God, I already regret saying that. You can.
It's not political. He's talking about a video game.
I am talking about a video game. You can find my writings at DriveThruRPG and itch.io under 5 Cataclysms. I wrote House of Flowers, which is an old school D&D compatible adventure, and co-wrote 5 Cataclysm Core Rules Beta Edition, which is our house system that I wrote with my co-author, Nick. You can also find his adventures for sale in those same places. The stuff I put out is free or pay what you want. You can pick that up with whatever price. If you pick up his stuff, it costs money, but it's well worth the price. So check it out.
Mm-hmm. You can also find me on tgpzgaming.com. I'm one of the blog writers, and I'm going to get together a list of, or a review of Age of Calamity here pretty soon, which should be going up on the blog probably this week. I think I'll get around to that, hopefully, and if all goes well, maybe get it posted. Sometimes it takes a little while to post because we have to, go through a process and all that. But there's generally good gaming content there. There's several opinion articles. Also on the TGPZ Gaming website is actually the main draw of that website is a one-stop shop kind of for all sort of gaming merchandise and things from all sorts of different vendors. So you can go on there and look up all sorts of different things from merchandise, clothing, accessories, that kind of thing, glassware. They've got some really cool Legend of Zelda glasses, and it's just all sorts of gaming merchandise. And it's all in one place. It's just set up as this place where you can find all sorts of cool gaming merchandise from around the web, all in one convenience place. So it's a really cool website. It's easy to navigate, and even if I wasn't a writer there, I would still really dig this website. It's really cool. So go check them out as well. There's the blog there, has interesting gaming posts all the time, and I'm gonna have my Age of Calamity review up there pretty soon, hopefully. So give them a check out. They also do a podcast, so if you want to look up Busted Buttons is their podcast. They just put up a new episode yesterday. It was pretty fun about next-gen systems and the whole debacle with releases and stuff. So it's a good listen over there. Most places you get your podcasts. So if you're on YouTube, they're on YouTube. They're also on any other kind of place. Also, if you want to check us out, we're obviously on YouTube. If you're watching live right now, we're going to be live every Friday. And we're also available on Podbean and Apple, so check us out. All right, now that we've shamelessly plugged ourselves, we move to our final part of the podcast, which is the part where we talk about inane bullshit until somebody says something really awkward and I cut us off.
Ask him if he's watched the new
Fuck.
April wants to know if you've watched the new Mandalorian.
The new Mandalorian?
Yeah. Have you watched any of those?
No, I don't really support Chinese companies.
Don't support Chinese companies.
What?
He doesn't support Chinese companies. You heard the man?
No, I didn't, actually.
Oh, yeah. Here. There you go. Dr.
Hi,
Chris,
April.
say hi. Here, get closer to the mic so everybody knows what's going on.
What do you have against China?
No, I have nothing against China as like it's like a place, or as like
just
the
totally
people. I have something against their current regime, but that's
for dang sure.
But that's their current regime.
I'm gonna have to drink more if we're gonna get into politics.
It's not our politics, it's other people's politics.
Oh, that makes it okay. Go home, you're drunk. She lives here, it's funny.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so you won't watch Mandalorian because...
No, I just don't really have much interest in subscribing to Disney Plus.
Oh.
Getting that.
That's fair. My interest lies solely in The Mandalorian.
And children.
My kids watch a lot of stuff on it, so it's...
Like, I still need to watch The Wire, and that's like on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many streaming services, I guess is my point.
That is a problem.
I agree.
I'm like,
as he just
I do keep lamenting the fact that I can watch none of the cool Star Trek stuff that Star Trek keeps making and then putting on the CBS one. And I'm just like, dude, put it on a real streaming service. Nobody wants to pay $5.99 a month for Star Trek and whatever else you're selling that they're not watching because it's not fucking Star Trek.
also we got Hulu just for one show.
I got a free month trial of Hulu so I can watch Animaniacs. It's not the same. I'm going to cancel it, and my kid is going to be sad because he can't watch Curious George anymore. But I'll be like, we have DVDs, bro.
I mean, we have DVDs, bro, is a pretty solid,
Argument?
pretty solid argument.
But do 6-year-olds understand a pretty solid argument?
No. Does ours ever? No.
Mm-hmm.
He's gifted
I mean,
and talented. He will.
What's a pretty solid argument to a 6-year-old? Isn't necessarily a pretty solid argument to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to argue with that kid ever.
I'll just be like, sorry, here's a donut. It'll be better.
Get over it, kid.
Yep. All right. I guess she's leaving. Goodbye to our faithful podcast guest. You didn't see that coming as a podcast guest, did you?
Whenever I'm off on Fridays.
Yeah. She yells at me from off screen and occasionally joins in the riffraff.
I mean, it depends on who this podcast guest is.
That's
If
true.
it's Nick, he probably totally saw it coming.
Yeah. Tell Nick I say hi. I haven't seen Nick in a while. He hasn't jumped randomly in the middle of the... I haven't seen anybody in a while. That is true. I saw this beer once. I didn't read Tom Thurman's last comment because I thought we were, in the middle of a... I thought about it. Not his last comment, but he had one in that string of things. So he wanted to be more specific. The labia minora is the outer lips of the vagina. So.
Oh, we got a scientist over here.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a thing that I learned at some point in biology class, and then immediately forgot because the scientific terminology for genitals is not something I will use ever in my adult life.
I mean, we used it just now, so never say never. It's like when people are like, hey, what are we ever going to use this stuff for? I mean, you never know when you're going to need to commit crimes.
Maybe we could have, answered Tom's question in more excruciatingly graphic detail if I had remembered. I was like, when I read labia minora, I was like, labia is something involving biology, I think. That's a body part, maybe. And I was right, I guess.
I think I figured. I think I was like, if I had my wits about me, wasn't too busy killing all these cops. Damn it.
What a weird first episode to get comments like that.
What?
Do most streamers get first comments involving scientific terminology for sexual organs? Is that how is that like, are we christened now as streamers?
I think so.
I mean, you were christened in the first place because your name is Chris. Christened. Get it?
I really hope you don't end on that god-awful dad joke.
No, I think we could find something more awkward than a god-awful dad joke.
Yeah.
I loved that god-awful dad joke. Because god-awful dad jokes are something that really speak to my heart. As a god-awful dad.
Oh.
Something.
Or something.
I'm about to navigate a lizard.
My wife's about to navigate a lizard.
About to land what?
Navigate a lizard.